Welcome back to English time. Today we are going to the third unit. We have discussed the lessons and poems in the first and second unit. Today we are going to a new unit. The title of this unit is Lore of Values. Here some stories are there which is explaining the importance of love and care. So let us directly go to the first lesson given in the third unit. The title of this lesson is The Best Investment I Ever Made. It is written by Archibald Joseph Cronin or A.J. Cronin. You might have learned the stories written by A.J. Cronin in the previous classes. He is a writer, a famous writer who discussed very important stories which is related with the bondage of love. So here also he explains a nice story. So before going to the lesson, let's discuss the profile of A.J. Cronin. A.J. Cronin, MD, DPH, MRCP. These are all degrees he achieved in his academic level. These are all related with the medical field, which means he was a doctor. Okay. He was born in 1896 and died in 1981. He was a Scottish novelist and physician. Okay, who was he? He was a Scottish novelist and physician. What is meant by physician? Yes, physician is or means a doctor. Physician means not a person who handles physics or physical science. Physician means, yes, a doctor. His best known novel is The Citadel, about a doctor in a Welsh mining village who quickly moves up the career ladder in London. So his famous novel is The Citadel. Yes. What is the theme of that Citadel? Yes, it is about a doctor in a Welsh mining village who quickly moves up the career ladder in the London. A character who was born in Welsh, a place in England, and he became a famous doctor in London city. Okay. He also worked as a medical inspector of mines. His novella Country Doctor was adapted for a long-running BBC radio and TV series. So his novella means novel only. So his Country Doctor was adapted for a long-running BBC radio and TV series in that years. So many years ago. Okay. So that is what about A.J. Cronin. He was a physician, a doctor, and his novels also discussing about the characters in, yes, medical field. So here, read the story The Best Investment I Ever Made by A.J. Cronin and find out how the author's act of kindness transformed a man's life. So here, our A.J. Cronin himself comes as a character, and he he shows kindness towards a person which transformed the life of that person. Okay, so that's best investment I ever made. On the second day, out from New York, while making the round of the promenade deck, I suddenly became aware that one of the passengers was watching me closely, following me with his gaze every time I passed. I wanted to rest, to avoid the tedium of casual and importunate shipboard contacts. I gave no sign of having noticed the man. Yes. So on the second day, out from New York, while making the round of the promenade deck. Promenade means what? A public place of walking. So on a ship, on those days, 1950s, most of the people used ships for traveling from one place to another. So the ship voyage took many days to reach in the destination. So here our Ejekoni himself going on a voyage as a doctor. So I suddenly became aware that one of the passengers was watching me closely. So on that day, second day in that ship, our Ejekoni, he understood someone was observing him very carefully. While he was walking from one place to another, one of the passengers was observing him very closely. So when we are absorbed by somebody else and who are not coming and talking with us, means it will be annoying us. So the same problem was there for whom? Yes, Ejekoni. Following me with his gaze every time I passed. So he was following him with his gaze, with his look. Then I wanted to rest, to avoid the tedium of casual and importunate shipboard contacts. He wanted to rest. He wanted to rest. Yes, a doctor. Ejekoni wanted to rest. Why? Because to avoid the tedium. Tedium means boredom. That boring. What boredom of casual and importunate shipboard contacts. That casual and importunate. Importunate means what? Asking for things many times in a way that is annoying. So simply asking, how are you? Good evening. And in that, he is a doctor in that ship. So people just simply will ask him these type of casual questions. So that made him very tired. So he wanted to avoid this all. I gave no sign of having noticed the man, and Ejekoni understood he was observing him, and he did not mind that person, that unknown person who was observing him. Okay, because he thought sometimes it might be his own thinking like that, so he did not mind. Then yet there was nothing importunate about him. But yet there was nothing importunate. Importunate means what? But even though our Ejekoni did not mind him, it did not annoy or disturb that person. He continued his observation on whom? Yes, our Ejekoni. On the contrary, he seemed affected by a troubled, rather touching diffidence. On the contrary, on the opposite to that, actually, when Ejekoni did not mind that person, he should have lost his observation interest of observing this person, but he did not. He continued his observation on whom? Yes, A.J. Cronin. So, on the contrary, he seemed affected by a troubled, rather touching diffidence. Diffidence means shyness. But that unknown person, his face was troubled, and he had a touching diffidence. Diffidence means a shyness. He had such a shyness on his face. He was in his early 40s, rather short in build, with a fair complexion and clear blue eyes. So here, this paragraph you have to read very carefully. Here it is explaining about the appearance of that unknown person. Okay. So he was in his early 40s. What was the age of that person? Yes, early 40s means 40 to 45 age. So, and rather short build. He was short build with a fair complexion. Yes, fair complexion. A good complexion means yes. And clear blue eyes. He was very white, and he had blue eyes, and his body was very strong. His thin hair had begun to recede from his forehead. His thin hair began to recede. Recede means stop growing. Of hair at the front of the head. Front of the head, what? Yes, the hair was going to started to fall. His dark suit, dress. What was he? What was his dress color? Yes, a dark suit, sober tie. Sober means plain and not bright in color. So a plain and bright in, not a bright in colored tie was there for that person. And rimless spectacles. He had spectacles that was rimless. Gave evidence of a serious and reserved disposition. Disposition means the natural qualities of a person's character. So his rimless spectacles and sober tie, that standard tie, and dark suit, which is suitable for a gentleman. So a gentleman won't behave like this. What? If a gentleman sees another person whom he wants to talk, will not hesitate. He will go and talk with him. That is what the nature of a good quality of a person. That such people will be called a gentleman. We watch a particular person, and we have been watching a person for many hours, and which is a disturbance to that person, and even knowing that we continue our observation means it is not a sign of a gentleman. So here he appears like a gentleman, but what? But he is not coming forward. So already our A.J. Cronin got annoyed or got angry, but after observing that person, A.J. Cronin understood what? Yes, he was a gentleman. At this point, the bugle sounded for dinner, and I went below. Then what? Yes, at this point, the bugle. Yes, bugle means that sound of a bell. Sound for dinner. Yes, in what ship? What will be there? Sound bell will be there for their lunch, breakfast, and dinner and all. There will be no calling. People will not come and call. There will be a bell, and after hearing that bell, people who are standing any part of that ship, they should come. They should go to the dining hall for having their food. So A.J. Cronin got a clear observation on whom that unknown person, and he understood his appearance was like a gentleman, but he was not ready to come forward and talk with him. So it annoyed him. On the following forenoon, I again observed my fellow voyager watching me earnestly from his deck chair. On the following forenoon also. Forenoon means before, means morning. On the following morning, I again, yes, again observed his fellow voyager watching him earnestly, very sincerely from his deck chair. As top of that deck chair will be there for sitting purpose. Deck, a term related with, yes, ship. So on the deck they were taking rest. From there, who was, yes, that person was looking at this, yes, doctor. Now a lady was with him, obviously his wife. On that day, a lady was also there with him. Then he understood it was, yes, his wife. Or doctor got an idea. The situation by this time had begun to intrigue me. The situation by this time had begun to intrigue. Intrigue means what? To make a person very interested to know about something. That made him some made us interest in whom this ejaculating. Why? Why does he observe him? What's the need of that person? But he does not come forward and speak with him. What is his problem? It is not problem for him, or he was not going to attack or something like that. He was a gentleman. The unknown person was a gentleman, but still he was hesitating to come and talk with him. So that's why he got interested in that matter. I discovered from my steward that there were Mr. and Mrs. Johns from a small suburb of London. Then I understood from whom my steward means, yes, his helper. Yes, person, that unknown person and his wife, they were Mr. and Mrs. Johns. They were from a small suburb, that boundary, living on the boundary of London. When another day passed without event, I began to feel certain that Mr. Johns would remain too shy to carry out his obvious desire to approach me. So when another day passed without event, the next day, the first day, he understood somebody was observing. The next day, he found that unknown person with his wife. On that day also did not come forward and talk with him. The very next, the third day also, nothing happened. Means that unknown person did not come forward and talk with him. So, yes, our ejaculating got more doubt. Yes. I began to feel certain that Mr. Johns would remain too shy. He is too shy. Shy means what? Shyness. To carry out his obvious desire to approach me. Yes, he wants to talk with the ejaculating, but he cannot. Something prevents him. So, however, on our final evening at sea, Mrs. Johns decided the matter. However, on our final evening, who did decided the matter? Yes, Mrs. Johns decided the matter, or took a decision to break that hesitation. With a firm pressure on his hand and a whispered word in his ear, she urged her husband towards me as I passed along the deck. On that third day, on the fourth day, yes, that unknown person's wife, Mrs. Johns, who decided to compel her husband to appear her husband in front of that ejaculating. So he whispered, don't go, stand straight, and I will speak like that. Who might have said, yes, that wife. And she urged her husband towards me as I passed the deck. As he passed the deck, that wife pushed her husband to talk with that ejaculating. Excuse me, daughter. I wonder if I might introduce myself. Then that person asked, excuse me, daughter. I wonder if I might introduce myself. I wonder if I might introduce myself. It is a what? It's a way of asking. Yes. Can I introduce myself to me? That is what the question. In a very respectful manner asking. I wonder if I might introduce myself. Shall I introduce you? He spoke almost breathlessly. So in without taking breath, who that person asked this question. Offering me the visiting card he held in his hand and studying my face to see if the name meant anything to me. Then what he asked this question by showing his what card. His card will be there, no? So his visiting card. He showed his visiting card and said, please sir, I have something to talk with you. Shall I introduce myself and shall we have a talk? And after showing that visiting card to AJ Cronin, that unknown person was observing the facial expression of whom? Yes, AJ Cronin. Why? To see if the name meant anything for me. If the what that name meant anything for AJ Cronin, means what? The unknown person, he knows our AJ Cronin. That we can understand. And he checks what? By showing his visiting card written by showing his visiting card written his name on it. Who is that person observing the facial expression of AJ Cronin, whether it makes anything comes to his AJ Cronin's mind or not. Then as it plainly did not. Then as it plainly did not, which means that visiting card with his name did not make any change on the face of whom? Yes, AJ Cronin. He went off with the same awkwardness. He went off with the same that difficulty, because what he has to be introduced by something, but he cannot. There is a hesitation. That type of what we want to talk with one person, but we cannot talk. We have to talk. It is compulsory, but and there should be a starting, but we don't get it. In such a moment, each and every person, we all face the same problem. Okay. If you could spare a few minutes, my wife and I would like to have a word with you. Then if you could spare a few minutes, my wife and I would like to have a word with you. So at last, AJ Cronin did not say anything by seeing that name on the visiting card. That unknown person took a distance to ask the permission of AJ Cronin to talk with him for some time. Okay, so if you are ready or if you are free, let us go and sit and talk for some time. I have something to talk with you. So he asked the permission, and as you know, actually the AJ Cronin was also disturbed by that following of that unknown person. So he himself took a distance to talk with whom? Yes, that unknown person. So AJ Cronin, you know, he will not disagree with that person. He said yes. Okay, let's have a discussion, conversation, and from that he is also interested to talk with that person. So AJ Cronin said, okay, let us have a talk. So in the next class we can discuss more about that conversation between whom AJ Cronin and yes, that unknown person. We have to know why did he feel such a hesitation to talk with whom? Yes, AJ Cronin, that unknown person. Why he feels such a hesitation, and wife compelled him to talk. Then he was ready, and he is a gentleman. A gentleman, if we are gentlemen, we do not want to hesitate to talk with any person. If we have done any wrong thing, yes, we have to. We will have a shyness, or we will have a problem in our mind to talk with that person. But here there is no problem with this Jaconin and this person. But there is something. What is that? Just you can read, and I will explain it in the next class. Okay, so read the lesson very carefully. Before going to the lesson, you can read the profile of AJ Cronin, and also you have to write down the profile of AJ Cronin and send me with the side question answers given. Okay, thank you.